Thanks so much for joining us. Today's show is all about moms. A little bit later, I'm going to take you to find some fun deals for moms on the Peninsula. But first up, from a group called Mothers Advocating Prevention, one of the founding members, Danielle Laurel. Thanks so much for being with us, Danielle.
Thank you for having us.
You know, it's so important. You and I have talked about this, creating an environment for kids in schools where they can feel comfortable learning about difficult situations. And, you know, today in the news, there are so many dangers for kids. And I think that even more so than when we were kids.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because it really has changed over the years, and we're going to get into social networking, but let's just talk about why it's different now.
Well, I think right now it's different because we're into technology. And when we were younger, there was, you know, cell phones we didn't have.
Exactly.
We didn't have the computers that readily right there in front of us. It was not even there.
Right.
So now it's a lot more, it's a lot easier for a predator or somebody to get online and start, you know, shopping around, looking for kids, or just, you know, getting information from, you know, the little tidbits of information that the kids put out there.
Right.
That's a lot easier. And so it's easier access, I think, with having the internet and all the technology that we have. Even though it's a great thing.
Right, it is.
It is a great thing.
Not for everything.
Not for everything. There are some rules we should know.
Yeah. Now, how did you get involved in starting all this? I know you've got kids of your own. Was that sort of your inspiration, or?
Exactly. When you started, M.A.P started about 10 years ago, and my children obviously were a little bit younger, 10 years younger.
Okay.
And it was scary because there was a lot of high-profile abductions at the time in the summertime, and so a group of us moms got together and said, hey, we need to educate our kids. We want to prevent that end result. We want to prevent, you know, seeing kids on the milk cartons. So what do we need to do? And so we got a hold of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and they told us that they have a safety education program that they would love to train us on so we could spread the word. So that's what we did, and the 5 of us got together and started M.A.P and started being trained by the National Center, and we've been in the school district ever since.
Now, I want to talk about the ages of kids. I know you go into a lot of elementary schools. How do the kids respond to some of the tools that you use? And let's go over them, because I think that probably elementary school kids are more like little sponges. You got to really get them then.
Yes.
Because when they're sort of in that mid-teen or that middle school, they sort of don't want to talk to you. And they don't want to hear stuff, you know. No. But if it's already ingrained, and let's face it, when we were growing up, it was don't talk to strangers.
Exactly.
You know, but now, like you said, it's gone to a whole nother level. It's not just strangers, it's people online and you know, people coming up to you and just all this stuff. So show me what you use as tools for the kids.
Well, basically for the schools, we teach the ABCs of safety.
Okay.
And what we do for like the younger grades, we have this called the trust tree. And what we do is we want the children to bring this home after our presentation. They bring this home and they fill it out with their parents, and it's a line of communication with the parents and a line of dialogue. And it's just a trust tree that shows, you know, who they can trust in their neighborhood, their relatives, their friends, their family, and so on. We also have a magnet that they bring home, which is the ABCs of safety, so they can bring it home and put it on the refrigerator and go over it.
Which is cool. That's a cool thing to bring home. Now, what are the ABCs of safety?
The ABCs are, first is ask for help. So it's just not it's 911, but also, you know, your safe helpers in your school, safe helpers at home, identifying those safe helpers, like if you're in the mall or if you're, you know, shopping somewhere or you're going to Chuck E. Cheese or something like that. You want to identify your safe helpers, because like you said, it's not just stranger danger. You know, it is somebody you don't know. And so they have to identify who they can go to for help if they need it. You know, if there's something that's going on. And then for B, it's bring a friend along. And usually what we tell them is, you know, wherever you go, whatever you do, always have somebody with you. And it's not necessarily just for the person who, you know, they're afraid of getting abducted, or they're afraid of, it's the kid who's fallen down this, you know, he falls down and scrapes his knee. You know, if he had a friend with him, that person can go get help.
Absolutely.
So we you know, we try not to make it on fear-based. We try to make sure that it's common sense.
That's an important one too.
And then C is to check first. So whatever they do, wherever they go, they need to tell mom or dad or whoever's watching them that this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. And that's very important. And I think even adults do that too. You know, we're always calling home and, you know, making sure
somebody know where you are.
what we're doing and when we'll be home, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's just common sense. And then D is do tell. And the do tell rule is if somebody does something to hurt you and they tell you to keep it a secret, you don't keep secrets.
Not from your parents.
And that could be, you know, the bully on the playground, or somebody sent you a text that you're not comfortable with and you don't like it. You need to tell somebody. You know, don't keep it a secret. You never keep secrets, especially when it's hurting you. You know, we don't want them to get into the mode of doing that. So, and then ease to explore the internet safely. And that is a big part of our world right now.
It really is.
So it's kind of nice, the internet is a wonderful thing. The kids can learn so much from it.
Right.
And, doing reports and just Googling things and trying to find out about recipes, all kinds of things. It's great. But there are rules.
Now,
and so we need to know those rules.
Well, it's an interesting thing when you talk about the internet and even cell phones, when you were talking about texting. You see kids as young as, first, second grade
Yes.
with phones. Now, are they allowed to use the phones in school? How does that work?
Usually it's up to the school district or the school, the teachers, but most of the time they frown upon it. They say, put your phones away and that kind of thing.
I would
Especially
think so.
in elementary school. I don't think
Too
the kids
young.
are really, into making sure that they have their phones with them.
Right.
But they do have, if some of these kids have smartphones and they have the availability to get the internet.
Right.
And they can socialize and they can take pictures. And there's a lot of, controversy with that, and there's a lot of rules that need to be followed. And so I think it's the parents' responsibility to make sure that, I'm going to get you this phone, but you can only call, that kind of thing.
And you know what? I've had this conversation with so many people because I think that the responsibility, first of all, of a phone is too much for especially somebody maybe 10 years old or under, because odds are they're going to lose it. Odds are they're going to find something else on it, like you said. So many of them have internet access, or the pictures, and it just kind of breeds into something until you're old enough to have the responsibility of what it entails. I don't even know what's on my phone.
Exactly. I'm still finding my apps.
Exactly. So and these kids are so much more technology smart, than I ever was. Yeah, much more savvy. So I think that it's just a huge responsibility. I understand it for parents wanting to have the safety feature of my child has a phone. If something were to happen, I can get in touch with them. But it's kind of that both sides of the coin with that.
It is. And it's a responsibility, I think, of the parents to, I'm going to give you this smartphone, but it's not going to be that smart. We're going to make sure that it only, you can only make phone calls, and if you need to text, you can only text this, and no photos, no, internet access. You can block those things, and you don't need to get them the iPhone. You can get them,
one of them have that actually.
Yes, exactly. So it's just a common sense. What do you want your child to do with that phone? And if they don't need all that technology attached to it, then don't give it to them.
And the same thing with online. Do you limit the number of hours your children can be online, or how did you handle it?
Well, as my kids, as they were growing up, the internet, was, you would have to put games in to do your, to play your games. Now it is more of,
there.
Yeah, it's already there. You just download it and it's there. So it was a different vibe when I was, wearing my kids on the internet. And it was new for me, so I didn't know everything. We as a group were definitely being educated as we went.
Right, absolutely.
And so we definitely were not as savvy as we thought we were.
Yeah. Now, when you go into schools, I know that you go in this area. Have you also branched out to other areas, or
yes,
how does that work?
We've been to a elementary school in Thousand Oaks.
Okay.
We also taught in Newport Beach, and we also taught in West LA. And we've been in communication with schools in Torrance, and they love the program. But of course, with the economy and everything the way it's going, it's hard to fund new programs and special programs. So we definitely branched out, and we love to go on more.
Yeah. What questions do kids ask you? Oh, I'm sure there's so many.
It would be is my neighbor a safe person? And that kind of thing, or what about my babysitter? Can I trust them? And we also have questions about, when I'm on the internet and somebody clicks in and I'm on a chat room, what should I do? That kind of thing.
Well, that's huge. And I think even on this cover here, it says, on the internet, nobody knows your dog. I love that. And you said this was from the New Yorker?
From the New Yorker. They graciously let us have that.
Yeah, it's so important because we don't know who we're talking to on the internet.
No, we don't. And a lot of these kids are gaming online.
Oh, yeah.
That's live.
Right.
So they, can be easily propositioned or talked to, or kind of groomed to go on, meet them outside of the game, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And that's what we have to just inform the kids: never ever meet anybody offline. You know, make sure you know who you're gaming with, know your friends.
Exactly.
You know, generic password or generic screen name, and you know, make sure you know they can't identify who you are and that kind of thing.
So in addition to homework, you also have to make sure that kids know exactly what they're doing online as well.
Exactly.
So it's busy for you.
Yes, and it's busy for the parents.
Yeah,
so they just got to make
absolutely.
sure they're on top of it. But these kids are smart.
Oh,
and
yeah,
when we
they
go
are.
into the schools, the kids really know what's going on, and they're very, very attentive, and they love having us in the classroom, so it's kind of fun.
Well, and I love that. I love that it's a tree and you can color in it too as well. Like I love that because I would have loved that as a kid to be able to relate to something that's more tangible and real, something fun to do, and
Yeah.
not just, oh, we're reading off of a script or something.
Exactly.
So I think that's very cool. The
What's
trust
nice
tree.
is that the kids, you know, we come into the classroom and it's our one-on-one time with them.
Right.
And, you know, I know as a kid that I loved it when there was a sub in my
Oh, yeah,
classroom
of
because, you
course.
know, it's like, woo, we don't get to learn math today.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And they they really, really love it that we're in there. And,
great.
you know, I'm not saying that we do tricks or we're entertainment, but we're something
No.
different than the norm.
Right.
And they really, really, you know, feed off us and we feed off them, and it's a really great
And you have a
communication
cool
between.
drink holder too.
Oh, yes.
To remind people about M.A.P.
That's just another one of our little giveaways that we do.
Very nice.
Our folders that we gave away are actually sponsored by Dr. DeLeo.
Oh, very nice.
So that was nice of him to do that for us.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
And then we have magnets that was sponsored by Michelle Chodos, and she's one of our founding members also.
Very nice.
And so this is a really nice giveaway, so the kids are constantly reminded about what we're doing and why we're
good.
there.
Daniel, so much great information. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And for more information, people can go to mapmoms.org. And coming up next, I'm going to find some cool deals on the hill for moms. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back.